Hello and welcome back to the podcast One Dark Universe. I'm your host, Howard Cosmo Palmer. Howard Cosmo Palmer. I promise you, I know words. Um, Today is a special interview, only because I believe Adam and I align. As you hear, he's got roosters in the back, so I can only imagine where he is, and he's going to tell us and how amazing that environment is. I'm here in the US, in the mountains. So let me introduce Adam Guzman-Poole to you. He's a holistic counselor, he's a coach, he's an author of the book Lessons in Love, and I think he's a practitioner of inner work. This is why we're here today. So, Adam, without further ado, my first question to you is, what is love to you? When you say love, what does love mean to you?
Hmm. Thank you, Howard, for that beautiful uh, intro. And
Yeah.
what a beautiful question to start us off. For me, love is more than just a feeling. Love
Mm,
is love is essentially it's life itself. I believe
mm,
that love in its essence is what we're all longing for. It's what we're all
mm,
looking for. It's also um, it's also, I think, the most profound thing that we're all connected to. Some people call this energy that is life. They call it, indigenous traditions. We call it the Great Spirit. More modern, they may call it the universe. Some
mhm,
call it God. Essentially,
mhm,
it's all love, and that's really, I feel, what love is about and what it is. So, thanks for the question.
You're welcome. I think I would agree with that. I don't know if love has a definition more than words can express it. Like we can express it over time, through our experience. But before we get into the next question, invite us into your environment. Where are
Yeah,
you? What's going on
yeah,
around
yeah,
you?
yeah.
It sounds
Thank
like
you.
there's trees involved and a forest involved. And like I grew up on a goat and chicken farm, so I'm imagining that again, and I miss that straight up and down.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I live in the rice fields of Bali, so my next door
Mm,
neighbors have a chicken farm, so a lot of chickens coming by. So that's what you hear in the background, and
amazing.
palm trees, and a lot of beautiful, smiling people. The Balinese community is it's a very special place. The people are very connected to the land. They're very connected to life, and really doing their best to make, life to be in constant communion with, these seen and unseen forces. But we can get into that as we chat. That's where I am. That's where I'm
Yeah, no,
anchored.
that's good. That's
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you for sharing that. I believe that was my curiosity is just I was chased by chickens a lot,
Mm.
especially by the roosters. I used to hang out in the chicken coop and then even try to ride the goats and stuff. Like it was fun in Jamaica. Like, it
Mm.
is what it is. And as I moved into the US, life was like a culture shock. It was a big change. So getting back to what feels like roots is what I'm hearing. Like that's the audio theme
Mm.
behind this
Mm.
podcast. If there was a background music, you have it.
Awesome. So
And so
beautiful.
like um I don't know, Adam. I love that we're connected and we get a chance to really talk and share. One of the things that inspires me from your work, your book, Lessons on Love, is sacred relationships. And what I really want to ask is, why do you think people are starving for authentic connections right now?
Mm.
Like we're
Mm.
coming from love and your understanding, but why do you think people are starving for authentic connection right now?
Mm. Yeah, and I think at the end of the day, it comes down to, um, that disconnection comes from being disconnected to our source, right?
Yeah,
And
you
I
you
think
mentioned that.
yeah, it really comes down to that. And we live in a world that is so focused externally. right?
Hmm.
We're focused on, what we can get. We're focused on our achievements, our doings, you know,
Well, you
and
mentioned technology connects us, but then loneliness still increases, right?
yeah.
So I'm kind of trying to navigate how did you get to that space? You talked about, you know, love, and I'm asking like, why do you think we need the authenticity right now, especially around your phrase of so much mention of technology connecting us, but yet we still have an increasing sense of loneliness as a community. Like,
Yes.
how is this not helping?
Yeah. So yeah, I'll get to that. And so you know, I feel that yes, we're constantly connected, right? But there's a difference
Mm-hmm.
between uh, quality and quantity, right? You
Mm-hmm.
can pick up your phone and connect to 100 different people in 10 minutes, but are you actually having depth in your relationship? Are you actually being present with the
Right.
person that you're with, right? So you and I, here we are, we're connecting from heart to heart, soul to soul. And so how I guess I'm trying to reflect on how I came to that realization. And I can share a personal story of just my own, my
Yeah.
own, I um, was very, in my early 20s, very achievement oriented. Even though I had
Mm-hmm.
a deep spiritual path, I was still looking for, my achievement in my doings. I was looking for
Mm-hmm.
it in, whether it be, getting my next, praise from the world in my business, in my work. How would I be succeed? And looking for that achievement outside. And there's a I had this moment where um, someone I love deeply, actually, they passed. And
Mm-hmm.
they called me up the day before, or a few days before, to see if I wanted to visit with them. And they were
Mm-hmm.
someone I loved deeply. They were a mentor. They were an elder man, and I would go, and we would, like he was like a voice teacher. He was a poet, and we would sometimes just go and read poetry together.
Oh,
And
wow.
he called me up. He said, "Adam, hey, you want to come, pay me a visit?" And I said, "Yeah, yeah, I would love to." And I looked at my schedule and had so many goals that I needed to
Mm-hmm.
do. And I said, "Oh, well, let's like, push it off to next
Reschedule.
week." Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
let's push it off to next week. And so I pushed it off to next week, and next week never came for him, right?
Right.
And that was a really powerful moment in my development and in my life. And I realized, wow, like, like relationships are so important and they're so precious. And at any
Mm-hmm.
moment they can be taken away, and I really had to seriously look within myself of like, where am I prioritizing achievement over relationships? And at the end of
Yeah.
the day, and this is a real, the importance of relationships is, it's a deep, like profound concept found in sacred traditions all around the world. In
Mm-hmm.
indigenous traditions over here, where in Bali, where I live, there's this beautiful concept called the Trihita Karana. I'm pronouncing
Mm-hmm.
that badly, but forgive me. And but it what it is it essentially means the three pathways to
Mm-hmm.
happiness, the three
Mm-hmm.
pathways to well-being. And it's all about, you talked about balance, keeping everything in balance before, and it's all about finding balance within the relationships that we're all connected to. So the first
Mm-hmm.
relationships that we want to like be in connection with is be in balance with the natural world. We get so
Mm-hmm.
much for nature. Everything that we see in front of us is a gift given to us from nature. So we want to be in balance with that, right? That's a relationship. And then the second relationship is our relationship to the sacred, this unseen world, call it the divine, and that
Mm-hmm.
is, we're part of that. So we want to be in positive relationship with that. And the third that we want to keep in balance is our relationship with other people, right? We want to, like, these people,
Mm-hmm.
like everyone, between, whether it be your ancestors, or your neighbor. When you're in right relationship with those people, life is in balance, life is in happiness. And this is seen in other indigenous traditions, like the Lakota tradition has the concept of mitakuyasin, which is all my relationships. In many
Mm-hmm.
African cultures, they talk about Ubuntu. And
Mm-hmm.
science and quantum physics is talking about this too. It says we're all interconnected. What you do to one
Yeah.
particle affects the entire system. So it's like
Yeah, the
we're all
butterfly
connected.
effect.
Yeah, exactly. We're all
Mm-hmm.
connected. Relationships are like this, and this powerful web that really makes this entire universe work. So
Mm.
that's my long answer to your question, but yeah,
No, I'm with you and I'm listening.
yeah.
I mean, help me understand, you know, what I hear you saying is that to the same question, while we have a lot of external realities like technology that gives us a sense of connectivity, the authenticity is missing in the inner work, the sacred work, and the community work, like finding
Mm-hmm.
space on those on like intentionally. And then there's
Mm-hmm.
the idea that knowing those technologies are examples or good mediums, but the work starts with yourself. Start with loving yourself and understanding that balance. That's what I hear you
Mm-hmm.
saying. Is would you
Yeah,
agree
no,
with that?
yeah,
Yeah.
hundred
Okay.
percent, 100%. And I mean,
Yeah.
during using my sort of like I have a methodology that I take people through, and I'm working with them, and it goes through this. It's like very systematic, right? And you said it exactly. You
Mm-hmm.
gotta love yourself first, right? And
Mm-hmm.
this is, you cannot give from an empty cup. So we need to work within ourselves, do that inner work,
Mm-hmm.
find the love within the shadows that we have, those darker parts. Can we love those darker parts within us and just
Mm-hmm.
accept them unconditionally? And when we can do that within us, because within us, within you, within me, that
Mm-hmm.
shadow is also a manifestation in the world. Maybe I'm angry at the greed in the world, but I
Mm-hmm.
also have some greed inside of me, right? If I cannot be with that, if I cannot release that and accept that, how am I going to bring that love into loving someone else's greed or inconsiderateness or anger, right? So it
Mm-hmm.
really starts within ourselves. And then we continue to develop and widen these circles of love between, then it's our family, then our neighbors. It's a Buddhist practice. They talk about,
Mm-hmm.
there's this beautiful practice. It's called metta meditation.
Yep.
And so it, right? So it's loving
Yes.
kindness for yourself first, then to
Mm-hmm.
someone you love, someone close to you,
Mm-hmm.
your friends, then to the people that are just, maybe it's your neighbors, the people that you don't see so much. And then you keep
Yeah.
widening those circles of love to till you can open your heart to your enemies, right? Or those people
Mm-hmm.
that you have hard time loving. And then you're just holding this space of love. But it's amazing. The Buddhist practice knows, like, it's like, okay, how can you give that if you don't start with loving those parts within yourself, right? And it really extends outwards.
No,
So,
I again a lot of agreements and balance here. We're definitely on the right side of our conversation where we're hearing each other's words. And as I'm listening, as yeah, I'm familiar with the meta practice. I took up Sharon Fargo's mindfulness meditation course
mm,
and did everything up until just submitting my videos. Because as I mentioned, kind of offline with you, this whole path of One Dark Universe is self-healing, is my work, is
mm,
my inner work. And I do think that love is misunderstood today as a culture. But to your point,
mm,
like if you look at modern culture, it is the person. So
mm,
I am familiar with the meta practice, I'm familiar with the mindfulness work, and I would consider myself, and I am a certified mindfulness teacher. But going out and giving that work to people or sharing that work kind of starts internally, you know? So when I think
mm,
about the modern culture and when we have the technologies and how we share them, to your point, there is still a sense of disconnection, almost like I forget where I read this, but we all have three faces. The faces you show up with, the faces you know, and then the faces you hide. And in a
mm,
lot of way, it's what we're doing constantly. But what I would love to navigate on purpose is having no face. like letting
Mm-hmm.
that all go and essentially having no emotion attached to my meaning more than the meaning itself. So when I
Mm-hmm.
asked you, like, what does love mean to you? It's really just to understand how you experiencing this moment, whether now or always. And you mentioned how it just navigated for you. You had a great friend, and the day never showed up for him as it did for you, but his energy and his spirit is always with you, and then his work. And so now, if we think about that in, I don't know, in the corporate space, we always talked about legacy. Like, what is your legacy? What are you going to leave the earth with? But now it's, to me, it feels like, how do you choose to leave the earth? Period. How do you choose to live and leave the earth? That's your legacy, because
Mm-hmm.
whether you're here or not, your work will always stand for itself, or maybe even stand
Mm-hmm.
for more. So this is a powerful space. I love talking with like this, and I'm glad that you wrote that book, Lessons on Love. And I'd like to at least turn towards that conversation real quick and maybe tell me why you wrote the book.
Mm. I think it was sort of a. I wasn't even intending to write a book about love. It just kind of came through, right? And
Hmm.
the stories, I just knew that I needed to write this book, and it was stories of maybe 10 years of experiences. And I think
Hmm.
similar with you, Howard, of like how this podcast is your own um, journey of self-healing, right? I mean, I
Hmm.
just wrote the book and it was just came from my heart. And every time I overcame a challenge within myself, right? I wrote a story about it. And it became, and my own my own journey with love, like I was saying, I dealt with a lot of growing up, I dealt with a lot of insecurities, doubts, feelings of not good enough, and these, you know, plagued me for a lot of my life, right? And they were
Hmm.
following me as I was, doing, and they manifested in in when I was younger, they manifested in some, like, maybe not the most healthiest patterns, like addictions and different things
Hmm.
like that. And as I moved through that and got older, I like I was saying, I found my love within what I brought to the world. And I was like, look at the world, look what I'm doing, look at my achievements. Will you love me? Right?
Amazing.
And so that was really the beginning of, like, the journey, right? The beginning of the journey of love came from not having it, right? And not feeling it within myself. And and that started the journey of self-love. Then I became a dad and a husband, and then I said, well, how do I love my family? How do I extend these circles of love and bring it into my community as an activist, or whatever it is, the work that I do? And so that really, um, I think, oh, hey, we have my son here. He's just surprise. Look at this. This is the
Hello,
birth
little
of
man.
love. That wasn't expected. Hey, sweetheart, can you?
No worries.
Oh, okay. He's going to be with us for just 1 second.
No worries.
That's my son, Arjuna. So this is a
Arjuna.
real Arjuna. So Arjuna is the warrior. He comes is a Sanskrit name, and
Hmm.
he is the warrior of light. He defends against darkness, and
Nice.
he's a beautiful story of love. And you see, when I here, I'm gonna hand him over
He's
to
a
the.
boy for sure.
He's a
So
boy.
he's full of
Yeah,
energy. He's full of
yeah,
energy. How
yeah.
old is
He's
he?
full of. He's 1.5 now.
Oh,
So
wow. Big boy.
yeah, big guy, big guy. Yeah, honestly, people think he's like 2.5. So
I was gonna say, is he like 3, 4? But no, he's
yeah,
big
yeah,
for a
yeah,
1 year old. Yeah.
yeah. He is. Yeah.
Awesome.
So yeah. So that guy. But that he's also one of the reasons I wrote the book is a little side story. When I've been on the path, the spiritual path, for almost 20 years. I was more likely to be a monk than I was to be going to be a dad, right? Like, I was
Mm,
like, I was seriously considering the path. And I met my wife, and when we met each other, there was just like sparks of chemistry. And even though my heart was like, no, it was afraid, there was a lot of doubt, like my
Mm,
soul, my deeper soul knew that there was something more within this.
yeah.
And, but my wife, like at 3 months in our relationship, she started getting like these visions of this
Mm,
child.
mm.
And I'm like, 7 years celibate, like on the path. I was like, oh my God, like this is, yeah, this is some other guy you're talking about, like not me.
Right, not me.
Yeah.
Adam
And
is a very common name. I'm sorry.
yes, yeah, 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 exactly. So that was but that was fear talking, right? It was fear.
Yeah,
It was
yeah,
fear
yeah.
of opening up. It was fear of opening to love, right? And because we get so conditioned to our small world, and when
Mhm.
life always wants us to grow, right? And but what happened was I also had a vision of my son, and like and it
Mm,
was just like, and I saw the world ahead, and I saw
yeah,
what was going to be the future. Like, we're in some pretty challenging times. I don't know if anyone here has turned on the news lately, but we're going to be moving through some challenges, right?
yeah,
And more than ever, like we need good kids. We
yeah,
need right, like it's like um, it really starts with, change first starts within ourselves, and then it extends into our families and into the world. So
yeah.
that was a beautiful side note. Thanks, Arjuna, for just running in.
Well, that's why you
Unscripted.
wrote the
That,
book. Well, that's why you wrote the
yeah,
book. Like you said, that
yeah,
you first said that you didn't even know why. It just came to you,
yeah.
and then you went on to
Mm-hmm.
explain, hey, I didn't even know why I met this woman, but now I know why. So the patterns were
Mm-hmm.
also in your life experience. And I would agree that, we have to leave the world better than we saw it, but everything is personal perspective. And that light
Mm-hmm.
only looks bright when you work on it. And a diamond only shows
Mm-hmm.
up in pressure. So
Mm-hmm.
to your point of the news,
Mm-hmm.
I don't watch the news, but I do listen to one particular podcast called Morning Brew. Shout out to
Mm-hmm.
Neil and wow, he's gonna hate me. I don't remember his name. But Neil and Toby, it's what they do and how they approach their conversation. It just makes it a little bit more digestible. But there is
Mm-hmm.
a lot of heavy, heavy shit going on, contrasting
Mm-hmm.
experiences, trauma, even burnout, even
Mm-hmm.
to our point,
Mm-hmm.
um, using technology to kind of pacify, if not band-aid, an actual gorging wound in our lives, or escaping the shadow work by doom scrolling. So
Mm-hmm.
all those things are natural to our habits based on our technological experiences. But I would love to, just like you, leave the future with a sense of inner acceptance. Like all these
Mm.
external satisfaction is not a word, I just made it up, but satisfaction and gratification is what I was trying to put
Such a
together.
good word. Such a
Satisfaction,
good word.
satisfaction, that
New
it's
word
like,
of 2026.
but my point is like, I I don't try to define it more than I do a best at observing it. And I think you're doing the same, that you can
Mm.
only control from where you are at best when you notice where you are. So
Mm.
right now,
Mm.
whether you're living in Bali as a father and as a man and as a human and as a spiritual guide, as a coach, as an author, as a holistic counselor, all those titles and labels that you choose to put on yourself represent an aspect of your intentional energy, how you show up.
Mm.
And so
Mm.
if I believe that and you believe that, when we look at the contrasting space, it's possible they believe that. It's
Mm.
constantly that aspect of us because we're all connected. I do believe in that why is the soap bubble round thing? It's because it's the
Mm.
most universal shape in all concepts, right? So the soap bubbles evolves out of nothing, but it's always circular. It's never a triangle, it's never square. Why is it circular? Because everything is sound, everything is
Mm.
round, everything comes
Mm.
back to itself, right?
Mm.
So that observation is multidimensional because you can see it in geometric shapes as much as in nature, right? The Vesica Pisces kind of thing. But with all that said, if we can get so empowered by that, when why does there have to be the experience of pain.
Mm.
And then obviously in religion and aspects of spirituality, this is our whole existence. Atoms don't even touch. Everything is resisting, you
Mm.
know? I don't know you from Adam, but we are the same atom, right?
Mm.
Everything is. So why is it so hard for us
Mm.
to have compassion in conflict more
Mm.
than we want to just like cut it off because it's not right or we're better or this better? And this is me and you just talking out loud. I don't know if there
Mm.
is an answer. Maybe having the conversation is a part of the answer. Like Douglas
Mm.
Adams, shout out to Douglas Adams. He wrote a great book called Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Mm.
And in that part, when they were coming up to deep thought, which was essentially the earth, they were like, what is the answer to everything? And deep thought said, that's not the question. Or it answered 42. The answer was 42. And then they're like, what is that? Well, first, to get the answer, you need to know the question. So you're not
Mm.
asking the right question. And my point is,
Mm.
maybe we're not asking the right question to ourselves. That's why these contrasting experiences show up, like 42. What does that mean? Like
Mm.
trauma.
Mm.
What does that mean? Shadow work. What does that mean? What's
Mm.
the question we're asking ourselves? So
Mm.
my question to you is, in the airplane story,
Mm.
let me find a way to word this so that hopefully I'm making sense. What does compassion actually feel like internally?
Mm.
How do we love difficult people now
Mm. Yeah,
and not become
100%.
passive? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. And that's a beautiful, beautiful question. And I'll answer it not with the airplane story, but another story
Yeah.
from someone I was working with. And they were experiencing a conflict with somebody. And they started
Mm,
like a conflict that was going to turn into an out, like they thought like, oh my gosh, like they're their thought pattern was like, oh my gosh, when they saw this person, like, am I gonna have to choke this guy out? Like literally, that was
right.
their thought. They thought they thought like they were like getting
Yeah.
ready for this fight. And so they met this first person, and they were really there was a lot of conflict. Then they left away from this person, and they thought that something was brewing. And and they came to me and they were looking for some like guidance, advice on like what to do. And they said like in their head, like intellectually, they knew they're like, okay, I gotta be loving, I gotta be compassionate, I gotta be like they were like they knew that the right response, right? The
Hmm.
external, they said, this I want to create a more loving world, I gotta do that. And I said, before you do that, meet the part, and they were a meditator. I said, meet the part within you that is feeling that anger, that is feeling unjustified, like, and that is feeling that tension, like meet it, like on a somatic physical experience, like meet that part.
Hmm.
So at the end of their meditation, they started to, practice metta for that part of themselves. It's not really who you are. Like when we're talking about shadow work, like here's the shadow, but you're not the shadow, right? Like
Right.
it's just it's a part. So it's like really seeing like, oh, here is a part that feels like they're being, they're being unjust. It's unjust, and there's unkindness, and they're feeling that tension. So be with that. Offer
Hmm.
that part love. Offer that part compassion. And
Hmm.
then when that part has that compassion, and it's that self love first, right? And it's like
Hmm.
offering that part to then that circle of love grows and we're better able to meet that person. So this person, after that happened, they see this person and they see them in the gym, right? They see this person
Hmm.
in the gym, and like they come into the gym and they're there, and they have these thoughts like, there's that thought of like, am I going to have to choke this guy out? But then there's that other thought that they have anchored in of more love, more kindness, more compassion, and they
Hmm.
put in the reps. They've put in the
Yeah, yeah,
time,
yeah.
like on the meditation mat beforehand, right? Like that's the gym. It's the gym for
Yeah.
the mind. We're literally practicing, like, so that when we meet life and we meet the tests and we meet the challenges. So this
Yeah.
person went and they had exercised that muscle enough that when they went to that person, They said they saw them and they said, "Hey, and they made some small talk and started like being kind to this person. Right? They started being kind and offering care and compassion to this person, and the person was just like you could see it in this guy's face that he was being kind
Mm.
to, like was totally like kind of
Thrown
like,
off
oh,
by it. Yeah.
totally thrown off because he was totally
Yeah.
expecting a confrontation. He was totally,
Hmm.
because that person was being super aggressive. So with his kindness, with his love, with his generosity, he actually turned this person into the friend. And these were like two dads in a part of a
Yeah.
school and whatnot, and they were part of a dad's group. So the other person had his number, and he wrote
Mm.
him. He wrote him afterwards. He just said, it was really cool what you did in the gym here. Like, I really,
Yeah.
like that was really big of you. And they
Yeah.
actually became friends of that. So this is how we can do it. Like we
Yeah.
really, if we work within the inner work, and this is
Yeah.
like, I mean, this is on a small scale, but
Yeah.
like what I'm saying is actually the exact same principles that Martin Luther King used as he went and he faced his foe. There's a story of him actually getting
Mm.
punched out. Martin Luther
Mm.
King was punched out by a person, and he just went and he smiled and he offered agape, brotherly love to this
Yeah.
person. And that transformed that person. That
Yeah.
transformed that person who completely hated African American individuals. He
Mm.
completely, and he said, wow, who am I? I'm calling myself Christian, and this is this
Hmm.
person who's loving me. And this person ended up loving Martin Luther King and loving all Black people. Like, so this is like,
Hmm.
like it works on a small scale, but it works on a big scale too, right? But I would
Yeah.
first say that, like, find that love within those shadows, within those parts of yourself. Because if
Hmm.
everything is one, as we're talking about, the shadows that we're seeing outside are also shadows that we have inside us, right? They're just
Hmm.
manifestations of what's within us. And if we can love them, they're not us, which means they're not them either.
Right.
They're not them. The people that you're looking at, they're just, when we talked about the diamond earlier, there's no
Yeah.
pressure. They're just
Precious.
like
Hmm.
that. There's just that mud, that crust covering it. But underneath all that negativity, there is a diamond there. There's something
Hmm.
beautiful. So it's really just seeing that, hey, here is another soul, just like me, beautiful, whole, and complete, based on all their challenges, based on all the negativity that they have inherited in this life, past lives, if you believe in that. They have
Hmm.
come to this moment. Gosh, they need a lot more love than most people because they are having it really hard. And so, because there's only certain, there's all, like, you can only hurt if you've been hurt,
Right.
and so it's really, seeing that bigger picture as well. So loving
Yeah.
yourself, seeing the person of the soul, they are not, that negativity. They are so much more. They are a soul just
Hmm.
like you. And yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. What I hear you saying as well is that authentic living today comes from one loving act,
Mm.
one small loving act at a time. So
Uh-huh.
authentic living comes from one small loving act. And that actually is in your book, at least. I remember the one loving
Mm-hmm.
act at a time. And
Mm-hmm.
so I would agree with that. And that for me, when I read that, the loving act was the loving act towards myself.
Mm.
What am I doing? What love did I give myself today? Whether it was
Mm.
brushing my teeth or patting myself on the back by saying, you woke up, good job. You know, you had something to do with that because you went to bed. But,
Mm.
the idea of learning how to slow down on purpose, giving yourself that sense of care on purpose. I use that word on purpose a
Mm.
lot, on purpose, because it's not, it's like more powerful than action to me. It's like
Mm.
on purpose. It's like it says action in it too.
Mm.
And as we somewhat bring back this circle, um, kind of closing out the value of this moment, what I want to at least understand from you, and I think I have it, is why do you want to do this work? Not
Mm.
just from the experience itself, but why are so many men emotionally disconnected? Like, why do you want to do this work? You know, like that's
Mm.
what I'm also hearing. Like,
Mm.
because there's this, I don't know, again, I don't know where I read this, so I'm not gonna say I came up with it, but it boils down to the teacher shows up when the student is ready.
Mm.
So
Mm.
if we are now learning so much as the student and we learn from each other as teachers, why do we need to do this? Why
Mm.
is this dimensional space in existence like this?
Mm. Mm.
I might be too deep, but I believe you can understand what I'm saying. It's like
Yeah.
we've talked about a lot today, and we've really shared in and out. And again, your book Lessons on Love is really an eye opener, like an eye opener in a sense of giving someone that sense of understanding where they are, especially through the message of love. That's kind of what I wanted to gather today as well, because you wrote this book. It's something that came from inside of you, but it also was part of the experience you were having. You and I are
Mm.
no different in relation to us believing we're humans on Earth. Let's just call it
Mm.
that. And
Mm.
in this human structure, we have whether it's 23 genomes or all these other stuff, but we're all experiencing through the same senses. So it's going to contrast down to our interpretation comes from those senses, and based on how much energy and meditative will we put into those senses, that the heightenedness of their meaning or how they work come to us. It's like a muscle. You work the muscle, you get better at it. But why, in your opinion, why all of this? Why? Why all of
Mm.
this?
Mm.
As best as you can with the moments we
Yeah.
have, because
Yeah.
I don't have
Right.
an answer. I just like
Yeah.
asking that.
Yeah. Well, I will turn to the Vedic scriptures
Mm,
for the answer to this question because it is beyond my limited human capacity. And but the Vedic scriptures is from beyond this world. They say,
yeah.
they say this is wisdom that is transmuted. Right? It is. It's not. It's not. It doesn't come from a personal individual's experience, but through direct experience with consciousness itself, life
Mm,
itself. And these scriptures come from a higher age when we were actually a lot more aware than we
more
are now.
enlightened.
Yeah,
Yeah.
more enlightened than
Okay.
now,
Okay.
So,
So we're getting
there's a
back to
lot.
there,
Yeah,
basically.
yeah, we're getting back to
Hopefully.
there. If we know, we actually after their Aquarian age, we're actually they in the Vedics they call it the end of the Kali Yuga, which is the end of the era of the most ignorance in the world. So
Yes.
we
Yes.
just
Yes.
finished
Yes.
that.
Yes.
We finished
Yes.
that in 2012, and like it or not, we actually are on an upward spiral. We are moving up. You can see that with many different advancements, this great spiritual awakenings all around. The age of AI is also part of that. There's this, there's like, they actually call it the age of intelligence, which
Yep.
is,
The acceleration
anyway,
of humans.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So, anyways, back to your big question, why? And I'll answer this in, I guess, two questions, two parts. Um, and so in the Vedic scriptures, they talk about you know the universe that we see, which is lives in this law of duality, positive, negative, light, and dark. These two things are here. One, they call it the divine play, the divine Layla, right? Which is what they call it,
Mm,
which is essentially it's a show that we're watching together.
mm,
And we cannot have that positive without that negative, right? We need them
mm,
together to actually create this show that we're watching. Just think of looking at a projector on a screen,
mhm,
just light on the screen. You need shadows to make the movie go, right?
mm,
So we need this negativity. We need this darkness that is there within this play that we're playing, that we see as the fuel to bring out the heroes that are within us. right? We
Right.
need that. We need that in this law of duality. So that's one part of the law of
Mm,
duality, right? When we're in that, so any essentially everything that's here in this life, the suffering, the pain, these are all teachers to help us bring
mm,
out our best, most beautiful self, to bring out the diamond that we're
mm.
talking about.
The pressure,
And
basically,
the
from the
pressure,
pressure.
right? From the
Mm,
pressure, right? And and at the end of the day, you and I, we are not these senses. Your name is Howard Palmer, my name's Adam Guzman-Poole, but that's not who we are. Who we actually are our souls, which
mm,
are essentially, they are rays of the most beautiful sun. We are expressions of the divine in human form, right? We are
mm,
expressions of this light. And so the big why and the big purpose of it all is to remember. It's to
mm,
remember who we actually are. We are a soul. We are beyond this body. We are beyond our names. That is who we are. And our goal is to come back to that source, to come
right.
back to that light, that remembrance of all beauty, all love, all divine. You said, what is love? That's what it is. And that's where we're all
Mm,
going. And these challenges, these tests that life bring us are all parts to bring out the diamond, to bring out
mm,
that beauty that is essentially our soul nature. So
mm.
I hope that, I mean, it was a big question,
Yeah,
but if you're,
and I
yeah.
honestly think the answer is part of the in part with the articulation or in part with how you talk about it. When I say I don't have an answer, I have a meaning, like how I think it
Mhm.
goes. But when I say there's no answer, there's no definitive answer, there's no definitive mark, there's no commandment, and this is it. Like it doesn't work like that. It's an understanding that we practice on purpose, again, and look towards living that energy with each other. So
Mhm.
yes, religion can form out of that because not
Mhm.
everybody grows or understand at the same rate. Yes,
Mhm.
separation can happen because of that, because this experience we have as men and women in separate bodies, but spiritually as one, causes us to need that, right?
Mhm.
And so I don't have answers. I more have like observational truth, and I try
Mhm.
to stick to those intentionally, um, with a way that makes me feel happy,
Mhm.
or makes me
Mhm.
feel at peace by doing so. So when I ask you why, it's really just like that. Why do you think that? Because again, bringing back your book, these are lessons on love. And if you love yourself, then these are lessons on love of self in life. Like even what you're looking at here, I did this on purpose. This is an infinity symbol, and this is
Mhm.
the and symbol, and then this chain right here is full of pyrite, um, amethyst, copper, and some other elements. So what it's really saying to you right now is infinity and beyond, right? Like I'm
Mhm.
sending that message to you subconsciously with these images, infinity
Mhm.
and beyond. My I like that. I think there's images or it's, meanings in everything. Growing up, I remember like part of 5% knowledge. You could look at the McDonald's sign, you can look at the Chase sign, you can look at the Walmart sign. They're all symbols of the sun. These companies are worshiping the sun. We're all sun
Mhm.
worshipers. And so
Mhm.
even the shell sign is the sun setting in the horizon. It's not a shell.
Mhm.
All
Mhm.
these things are ways for us to be taught, but through symbols and not
Mhm.
necessarily just through words. So my
Mhm.
why is part of that, observational truth. And I really would love to leave this earth, at least in the interpretation of my experience, with knowing that if there's a way to stay connected, right, from here, this experience and back, because I don't know what it was like prior to birth, but I knew I was there. Maybe not to your point, Howard Palmer, but some essence of myself was there. That when I move forward in what seems like a linear timeline, I die. That that that's that connection of my ancestors in the Sankofa. It's like an African thing of looking back. Like all of that comes together and came together now and continues to come together as I
Mhm.
transition this 3D dimension. But I'm saying that now, but it exists here, but I can
Mhm.
feel it. And I know I'm not the only one. So
Mm,
that is the
mm,
basis of my why. And thank you so much, Adam, for this conversation. I
mm,
do like to ask, was there anything that I should have asked you, or you felt you wanted to
mm.
share that we didn't go over today?
Yeah. Well, thank you, Howard Palmer, for your why and your mission and legacy. And I
Thank
think
you for
just
yours.
yeah,
Mhm.
appreciate you. And I think just the one thing, and I think we talked about it. Um, we touched upon it a lot, but I just want to impart upon our listeners the the immense power that you and I actually have. Especially as we looking at the the global scale of the world, and we're seeing, wow, oh my gosh, like a lot of people are feeling overwhelmed in these times and not
Mhm.
knowing what to do. And really, I really believe that as like that if what we're saying is true, that you and I are part of the entire whole. What you do in your corner, what you do with yourself, meeting those,
Mhm.
the discomforts, meeting the shadows, meeting those parts of you with love, as well as what you do with your family, in your neighborhood, even if it may seem small, it ripples and it does
Mhm.
matter. And it is as valuable as the president doing something and that is affecting a million. So I just want to like really impart that you have so much more power. Own your corner wherever you are, do your
Mhm.
best, do your part, one loving act at a time, and we will continue to change this world for the better. So that's the one part I'd like to impart, and maybe tell people that if you want to learn more about uh, the work, just offering a gift to the listeners, you can get some of the stories that like transformational stories that we've talked
Yeah,
about to change your life. If you go to lessons on love /gift, and that's my gift to you so that you can be the force for love the world really needs.
thank you so much, Adam. Listeners, viewers, on this meeting, this connecting of energies, we talked a lot. We mentioned how to pause, we mentioned how to breathe, we mentioned how to listen, and we talked a lot about Adam's books, Lessons on Love. If you go to his homepage, lessonsonlove.com/gift, as he notes, he has a gift for you. Um, I would say keep showing up for yourself, as Adam mentioned. This is not supposed to be easy, but then don't look at it as easy or hard. Just look at it, and your observation will give you that truth. Once again, you are love, you are light. Thanks so much for listening to the show and coming back. This is inner work for me. So while I may not be frequent, I am consistent. Thank you.
Thank you.